in all the apartment buildings and commercial buildings and everything. I use the same hardware. I use the same keyways and everything. And all of a sudden you're thrown to the wild and you're dealing with everything. And I had never dealt with the A3 pinning system before. And that was a culture shock for me. I didn't even know an A3 pinning system existed.
Hey everyone, I am super excited to introduce you to a longtime Lock Boss community member. His name is Yogi Greg Gibson. Now, Greg has a very interesting take with his geographical location that he's at and how he operates his business. And I thought it was really important to have him on, kind of share some of his tactics and really just to get to hang out with him for a few minutes. We've exchanged quite a few emails, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So without further ado, Greg, how's it going?
It's going great. Going great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on here and hanging out for a little bit and let me get to kind of dissect your business operation and some of your philosophies. Oh, Topo Chico. Cheers. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, Greg, if you want to just let's kind of start from the beginning. Kind of where are you located in the U.S.?
I'm located right smack dab in the middle of North Dakota.
Right in the middle.
Right in the middle. Worst place to be.
Yeah. And how long have you been locksmithing for as a profession?
As a profession, I'm going on my fourth year.
Fourth year. Okay.
Yeah.
And what were you doing before locksmithing?
I was serving as a locksmith, but not a professional locksmith. I had a pool of realtors and a very large pool of property owners. And I basically managed their entire master key systems and hired and managed crews for basically anytime somebody moved or needed to be evicted, you know, any repairs that needed to be made. I was the guy all the locksmiths hated.
Okay. So you're doing a lot of so you were kind of being a locksmith, but you were also doing some like property maintenance type stuff.
Yes.
Okay. What was that moment? You know, I'm always curious about the moment when someone decides to switch focus on, you know, how they're making money. And what was the moment that kind of led, or the circumstances that led up to where it's like, you know what, I want to start my own locksmithing business?
Well, the defining moment was when the last local locksmith called me and he says, I'm 74 years old. I can't do this anymore. I'll make you a heck of a good deal on all my equipment and all my inventory. And I got thinking, well, you know, some of this stuff I could use. So I threw him a bone and I ended up buying him out. And I didn't advertise or anything because I hadn't intended on going public. And then all of a sudden, Chamber of Commerce and local government officials are like, help, we don't have a locksmith within 120 miles. Please serve the public. So, and I just decided that's the time. That's the time. The neighborhood, the communities, the businesses, they were really suffering because they were having to pay to have somebody drive 120 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
wow. And so that's when you decided to really get into it, was kind of that conversation, it sounds like.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's kind of when our real relationship began. You know, that's when I bought my first Futura machine from PJ.
Yeah, well, thank you. Now, you know, I'm kind of curious about this. Okay, and how was your family when you're like, hey, I'm gonna start being a locksmith? Were they like, Greg, have you lost your mind? Or, you know, like, how did that process go?
No, the biggest frustration was that how am I going to finance this? Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that if you're going to be a true locksmith, it's a very large investment when you're starting from scratch. I mean, I had your .003 universal pinning kit, and a few tools, but I did everything the old-fashioned way. I did everything with space and depth keys. I didn't even have a code originating machine until I bought the Futura Edge from you. I mean,
Okay.
I ended up buying all of that equipment to make it so that I was more efficient. But that's what my family thought. My family thought that I was absolutely crazy because I was basically going to deplete everything that I had worked for and put it on the line for something that I never intended to do.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess that kind of makes sense, right? I mean, especially when you got all the stuff from that locksmith and you're just going to keep kind of doing your thing, and then you're going to make it kind of a public offering as a big step. But, at the same time, cool for you to also realize it's like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I want to make sure I get the equipment that, I need to get the job done. Right. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's
well,
definitely
it helps when you got a good supplier that, works with you really well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I definitely appreciate all of the support for sure. So you start doing all this, and do you do automotive as well as residential, commercial? Like what would you say your offering is to the public?
Well, you and we've had this discussion before. I really want to get into auto. I bought the new machine from you to do auto, bought the programmer. You hooked me up with just a whole slew of keys. But right now, again, it's a battle of time and distance. Right now, I just don't have the time to dive into auto. I really, really, really want to. And it really bugs me knowing that I have all that money and equipment and everything just sitting over there on the shelf, but I don't have anybody that's even interested in learning the trade other than my son, but he just graduated from the Marines and he's off doing his thing. So I lost my number one man.
Okay. So now it's just you're by yourself.
I do have a team of maintenance guys across the state that they're godsends. They help me with installs and basic works, but every ounce of pinning comes across my desk. Every ounce of it.
Okay. Interesting. Now, something you've kind of touched on a few times that I would really like to deep dive for a minute, because this is probably unique to some people, especially in like less populated areas. And that is, you've mentioned like your service territory, and like what the Chamber of Commerce said, it's 120 miles away was the nearest locksmith. Was that right? 120?
Yeah. If you go to the west, it's about 130. And if you go to the east, it's between 100 and 120, depending on the quality of locksmith that you want. So I always say it's about 120 miles. It's crazy.
I mean, that's quite the distance, right? I mean, so from where you're at, and I mean, you could get a call to go rekey a building that's 80 miles, 100 miles away.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And John really hit on a lot of the subjects on Tuesday that I honestly thought were kind of business trade secrets that I were utilizing. Probably the number one take that I think a lot of locksmiths should take away is there's more than one way to make money as a locksmith. And the way I make my money and the way I'm able to service my customers from a long distance is exactly what John said on Tuesday. Interchangeable cores. When I set up a new system, I set them up with an extra set of cores and an extra set of keys because I am so far away. I just can't drop at a dime and travel 120 miles just to rekey for somebody when I can get them additional cores, and they just sit in their vault and they do it themselves. And that's also the same way that I've ran the apartment buildings for years. Every month when there's a move out, they tell me how many cylinders it is I need. I already have their master key systems. I send them the cylinders. They send the old ones back, and I rekey them. It saves me a lot of time and a lot of travel.
Yeah. So that, I guess that's kind of my question here. So when you have such a humongous range, right? I mean, you could eat up a good large chunk of the day just driving to and from
Absolutely.
one job, just one job. And so do you like batch jobs together? Well, it sounds like how you're dealing with your customers a little bit, like you can have them set up to where a lot of things aren't an emergency. So like maybe every other week you head up to this area or that area, or like, how do you handle that?
You hit it right on the head. The last day of the month is absolutely crazy. The last day of the month, I make what I call the loop. And I have the contracts for Section 8 housing and for USDA and HUD housing. So once a month, I make the big loop. I start out at midnight and I just drive. And I'll switch out the cylinders or whatever it is that I need to do in all the government subsidized housing. And I do the same thing with businesses. One day I'll go north, next day I'll go east, next day I'll go south, next day I'll go west. And I hope that somewhere in there I can actually get a day off. But as of like right now, I'm on day number 7 straight.
Oh, wow. You're after it right now. Wow. That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense from your service area because I mean, it'd be really hard, to go do 2 rekeys 100 miles away, for a price that would, work for everybody. Right.
Well, I don't know how a lot of other guys run their businesses, but in my mind, where I make my money is sitting at one of my 3 desks, pinning the locks. I don't make money, even with the service charge and mileage. If you look at dollar for dollar on how your minutes spent, traveling is not a moneymaker. At best, it's a break even. It's not a moneymaker.
Mm-hmm. And that's that's very interesting coming from you in your situation because you have to travel a lot, right?
I mean, absolutely.
I could not imagine. I mean, I would have. Do you ever have like when you go to leave, you're like, do I have this tool? Did I make sure I have this tool? Do you ever go through that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Here's a classic example. I have a service contract for a 4-state chain of convenience stores. Generally, I don't have to go to the convenience stores, but they called me yesterday and they said that somebody stuck the wrong key that isn't supposed to go into that keyway in there, and now their lock is screwed up. So there's a classic example. That store is 95 miles away. So as soon as we're done here, I'll be climbing in the vehicle and I'll be going there because they can't lock their store tonight. So what do? Either they stay there all night until I get there tomorrow, or I climb in the vehicle and I drive 95 miles one way and I make it right.
95 miles one way.
Yep. 95 miles one way, PJ.
Ooh, I mean, that's a lot. Geez. Greg, this is fascinating because, your situation and how you're having to run your business is unique, I think.
It is.
With that distance.
It is. And I started at 6 a.m. this morning. I got back here at 2 o'clock, and I'll hopefully be able to spend a little bit of time with the kids. And about 5 o'clock, I'll head back out and I'll probably get home about midnight.
Wow.
And you never know. Like you said, what do you take? So luckily, I already service their chain of stores, so I already know that it's a dead latch. So
Okay.
I know to make doggone sure that I got both an inch and an eighth back set dead latch. I make sure I got new IC housings. I make sure I got new cylinders. I make sure I got everything that I could possibly need to completely rebuild that door before I leave.
100%. I mean, 100%. I mean, it's bad enough when you have to go back, 15 minutes to go grab something, let alone your time. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, you could probably teach a class on tool organization and part organization to make sure you have what you need at the job, because the stakes are high with what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. I know you can't see, but maybe when we do the live, I'll give you a little bit better view. But I utilize Tupperware containers, and I have things set up for different customers like TJ Maxx. I already know that they use the Best X10 keyway and interchangeable system. So I have a little tote set up for TJ Maxx that has everything that I could possibly need for their service call.
Okay.
And that sits on the shelf. And it's just, I have to be as efficient as I can because too much of my time is eaten up on the road. So efficiency is key.
Yeah. Now, I have to ask you. So when you're on the road, you have all this time. Of course, you're taking phone calls when they come in, doing that. Do you listen to like audiobooks, the radio? I mean, what do you do on the road when you're traveling like that?
In all honesty, I do get a lot of calls because I try and be a telephone doctor as I'm driving. When a customer calls and says, I have a problem, and I'm walking them through things and I'm asking them key questions. Okay, you have a commercial door. Do you need a key on the inside and the outside, or do you have a thumb turn on the inside? Okay, when you turn the thumb turn, what does it do? I try and diagnose as much as I can. So that way I make sure that I have what it is that I need, because a lot of these customers I've never dealt with. And you and I both know you only have so much room to carry stuff. The average customer has no idea what they have for a keyway. They have no idea, what size locks they have, what type of locking mechanism. Most of them, they don't even know what a crash bar or an exit device is.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I push this thing to get out, right?
I mean, absolutely.
So, Greg, if we could rewind the clock and you're getting ready to enter into the business officially, what's one thing that you wish that you knew then that you know now?
Oh, goodness. I wish I would have spent more time learning about hardware that I was unfamiliar with. You have no idea how much time I spent dealing with hardware that I had never dealt with in my life. I mean, it's classic locksmith fashion. You tear it apart and you hope you can get it put back together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a hard thing, I mean, you really have to, in the locksmithing world, you really have to learn the skill of building on existing knowledge, right?
Absolutely. 110%. I in all the apartment buildings and commercial buildings and everything, I use the same hardware. I use the same keyways and everything. And all of a sudden you're thrown to the wild and you're dealing with everything. And I had never dealt with the A3 pinning system before. And that was a culture shock for me. I didn't even know an A3 pinning system existed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be a tough one, especially if you're trying to decode the keys and you're like, okay, this isn't working.
Yep. The one good thing about the locksmith community, especially all the lock bosses out there, is the willingness to help and the willingness to share. I mean, when you have a problem, there's a lot of forums that you can go to that you can get some true, honest answers. And I love locksmiths because they're not afraid to be brutally honest with you. I mean, if you're doing something dumb or you're wanting to put on the wrong piece of hardware, I mean, there's a lot of guys like Locks NY out there that'll look at you and say, man, no, what are you doing? I mean, I just appreciate the whole lock boss community. And, you know, I've been a part of it for quite a while. And the lock boss community is awesome. I mean, that's how I learned about things like my favorite little tool, the Big Bro. This thing is the best thing since peanut butter and jelly, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, nice. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's a great tool. You know, it was one of those that I loved the mullet, you know, and I still love the mullet.
Oh yeah.
But I was like, you know, this is the deal. Like, I want to encourage people to be checking for master pins. And the truth is, with a follower like the Big Bro, you can easily check. Whereas with the mullet, you're going to have to take your tweezers, right? Get in there and check it on. I know, you know, so I'm glad you like it. Have you used it a bunch?
It's like I was telling you, the very first time I used this tool, I was doing a rekey on a local church, and I never would have thought for a million years that the front doors on a church would be master keyed. And you know, I was just trying it, you know, to see if I like it. And next thing I know, master pins fell out, and it's like the discussion we had. I'm like, I'm very thankful that I accidentally used this tool, because the stack would have been too high, and we would have had a max violation, and the key would have got jammed.
Yep,
wouldn't have been good for me. This tool paid for itself and saved me a lot of time.
Awesome. Very cool. Yeah. Glad to hear. I'm glad it's working good. And that's absolutely great. Well, Greg, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time coming on, hanging out. It's been great to talk face to face as well, even though it's through technology. Hopefully we'll be able to meet each other in person. But I also want to give you the opportunity. You have any questions for me?
Let me ask you this. You know, I know you got all girls, but do you think any of your kids are going to continue and following the family tradition?
That's a good question. You know, it's really hard to say. I mean, my oldest is, you know, 13. And, you know, it's probably not a huge surprise, but, you know, when I was a kid, my dad definitely wanted me to take over his locksmithing business, right? I mean, he was very vocal about that. I really didn't want to, honestly. I don't know why, but maybe it's just your parents' stuff. But so, you know, when I was a kid, I liked the work, but I didn't want to necessarily take it over or whatever. But, you know, I don't know, Greg. I don't know. Maybe one of them will. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I totally understand what you're saying. You know, I mentioned a few weeks ago, we were in San Diego for my son's graduation from the Marines. And I honestly think that he is going to help out in the part-time, but his true passion is law enforcement. So, you know, he's got to follow his true passion. So he's going to be a military police officer and locksmith on the side, helping his old man.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. You know, I am slacking though, because, you know, you know, my dad had me in his shop rekeying locks and cutting keys for customers at literally 6 years old.
Oh my.
You know, I haven't done that to my kids yet. I probably should. I should probably at least get them shipping some packages or something. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think my son probably has more experience with master key systems, and this is a God's honest truth, than probably a lot of locksmiths out there. I mean, we have over 10,000 IC cores floating around out there, and I don't even want to know the number of cylinders in master key systems that my son has sat at the dining room table and pinned up. And I mean, it's crazy to think.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that's great experience. And the best part is, so able to use that his entire life, right?
Absolutely.
It's good. You know, something my dad and I used to do as a kid a lot. So I, you know, worked for him, worked in his shop, all that kind of stuff. Well, there was always back then, this is way before leashy and all that kind of stuff. there would be some padlocks or something that would need to get picked open so they could be rekeyed, like the rekeyable ones and that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And I used to just take those home. And I remember sitting on the couch. I mean, after dinner, my dad and I, we'd be sitting downstairs watching American Chopper or something. And we're, sitting there picking locks, trying to, get it figured out.
Yep.
So good stuff. Greg, well, hey, thank you honestly for, for serving your community, being a locksmith. And it seems like you do a really good job representing locksmiths well. So thank you for that. And I really look forward to you coming on live with me.
Excellent. I do have one more question for you, though. So okay. I have to ask. So whenever Kylie sees my name come across her email, does she say, "Oh no, not Greg"?
I'm not in her office, so I can't tell you for certain. But I would say, all the time she's always like, "Hey, talk to Greg today," or this or that. No, I don't think so. I think she's happy when she gets an email from me, would be my guess.
I love you guys. I love dealing with you guys. And I'm very excited for an announcement that you're going to be making here before long. It's going to make me very happy.
Yes, thank you. It's been a long time coming, and I'm chomping at the bit for it. So, great. Yeah, and of course, thank you for all of the business and that you give us, and I truly appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you guys also. Thanks for having me on, PJ.
Yep. Thanks, Greg. We'll see you live here in a couple weeks, or I should say this next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.